I'll go over really quickly what we have planned for today. Um, Basically, I wanted to do a live series just to connect with you all and try and go through the recipe step by step, but kind of in a slower process and answer questions along the way, because I know how daunting and confusing sometimes things can be when you're watching a YouTube video and you're trying to learn how to cook from it yourself. And or if you have any specific questions just on the Chipotle chicken itself. I want to kind of, run through it. I have a pre-marinated bag right now. So we're going to make the marinade and then cook what I have that's pre-marinated already, which is kind of cheating, but it's not. So that, at least when I'm eating it tonight, it'll be as authentic as possible and kind of like what I'm trying to, go for with you all. Chicken breasts, do I use chicken breasts or fillets? So that's a good question. So Chipotle uses leg quarters, and the best way to mimic that without ordering it custom from like a food wholesaler, would without the bone and whatnot, because they slice the bone off, is just to use boneless, skinless chicken thighs. So that's really the best thing that you can do to, mimic what they're using in the restaurant, from what I've seen at least. I'm excited to make some chicken. Hello, everyone. SP. Hey, heart you back too. Same here. Can't wait to make Chipotle. Hey, love pugs. We're excited. I hope you're ready to do it. Darn easy. Hey, welcome. I'm glad I'm not muted anymore. Love pugs. We here. Cool. Okay. So we might as well get started with the recipe from what I have right now. Let me see. I'm going to have to bend down a little bit. How's this? Everybody good? Okay. So first thing, obviously, is just to make the marinade. So I have all the ingredients laid out so that we can do this pretty quickly. If you have specific questions on the marinade, go ahead and ask them right now while I'm doing it. The big thing, though, is in the video, at least with the garlic cloves, I've seen a lot of the comments, throughout the years. You don't have to mince that ahead of time. You can just use a blender. And there's a lot of different ingredient, hacks that you can do alongside things that we'll kind of talk about today with, you may or may not need certain things to get the same result, if that makes sense, if you want to save money. So first things first, we're going to start with a teaspoon of cumin powder. Let me see. Here we go. We're going to put this into the blender. All right. So 1 teaspoon. And again, this isn't anything, much different than what you've seen on my video. It's just going to be something that I can kind of guide you guys along with is really my goal. Do you need accurate measurements? Well, it's like any recipe. The more accurate you are, the more you're going to be consistent with your end results. But no, I mean, if you want to make this more spicy, or if you want to make it more garlicky, or you're like, hey, I want this to be saltier, or I want more pepper in it, you can add more or less of what you want. I just think it's important that you get a good base in there. Because to be honest, throughout the years that I've made this myself, I'll put in, more or less of certain ingredients just because I'm going quickly. But today we'll do it as accurate as possible that I know it. And then, you can feel free to, take or use what you would like. I hope that answers your question. So we got 1 teaspoon of cumin powder in the blender. It's not cumin. I don't know why I called it cumin. Anyways, 4 garlic cloves that I have all ready to go right here. You don't need to mince these up again. You can just toss them in. And alluding to what you said right there, you don't have to exactly put in 4. You can do 3 or 5. It just depends on, what you like. I noticed when I use the chili peppers, it's better when I use less because 3 is spicy. Yeah, so we'll talk about that too. It depends on how you cook the chicken. So inside the restaurant, they cook it on the grill. So a lot of the marinade and what's on the chicken kind of burns off in terms of flavor. And so that will affect, the spice. So if you, for example, are using it in a pan on the stove, especially if it's a non-stick pan, you're going to retain a lot of that spice because the marinade's not really going to cook off. So it's definitely going to be spicier in that manner. If I do it like on an open grill outside, which we could do, it's going to be a lot less spicy, I would say. I like to, which I have preheating as my cast iron skillet. I think that gets the best resemblance of a flat top that you could have in your own home without having to go get a grill, because not everybody has a grill. I didn't 5 years ago when I lived in my apartment. So yeah. Let's see here. He's a coomer. Yes. All right. So we got 4 garlic cloves in there. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of dried oregano. So there's like 2 different types of oregano, I think, that I know of. There's the Mexican oregano that I got from the store here. And then there's also oregano that you can get that's Italian. I would try the Mexican version. I think that would be the closest to what Chipotle uses. But again, to be honest with you, for years, I've used Italian. So I don't know how much of a difference it makes in the flavor. Some people may say this is more potent. Some people may think it's not. But again, who actually knows? Okay, let's see here. Needs super good ventilation, making this indoors. Found out the hard way. Yeah, it's like mace. It's literally, we're going to do it tonight. And I've never cooked it in here. I've only cooked it on the grill since I've moved to my house here. So it's going to be completely different. In Ohio, it's hard to grill outside in the winter. So I grill inside my air fryer. I've never tried this in the air fryer. That's a good idea. Something you can do, if you have like a ventilation issue, is you could sear the meat off, as hot as you can get it. And then immediately with like an oven safe pan, put it in the oven to finish off. Because really you're just trying to get a good Maillard reaction on the outside of the chicken before you put it inside the oven. So that's what I would recommend. I'm going to do this while I'm answering the thing, but 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. Love your buttercream recipes. Glad to see your back recipes. Help you make videos. Hey, DB. Hey, how's it going? I appreciate that. Yeah, life's been pretty busy, but I'm hoping to, make a commitment and come back and make more recipes and do more things. I have a lot of recipes that I've made, in the last 5 years that I just haven't gotten on a video because life's just been so busy, but I'm here now to share it. So I really appreciate that. That's awesome. Let me know in the chat if there's anything else you'd like to see. I like to make what, my community wants. That's kind of how I started with the Chipotle stuff. So I got kosher salt. Chipotle uses kosher salt. You can use other salts, back to that spice question. But, different salts have different level of saltiness. You just kind of have to figure out what works for you. I just always go with the kosher salt. Air fryer comes out just a tad bit better than on a nonstick pan, but not as good as the the cast iron. Yeah, exactly. The air fryer, if that's all you have, it's better than nothing. Again, it's a pretty versatile recipe to be made, but Chipotle uses a grill. So if you want to get it the most accurate, cast iron is probably your best bet for an at-home kitchen. Okay, we set the air fryer outside on the porch for pungent recipes. I love that, Rick. That's fantastic. Yeah, same. I might have to open up this window when we get this going, but I'll have the oven on full blast, which may affect the audio, so hopefully not. Love pugs. Crisp and braising pan would be great to get the sear in the chicken. Yeah, of course. Yeah, braising pan to stick in the oven, something to really get a good Maillard reaction on it before you cut it. Because I've seen a lot of comments, or I've seen even my sister who's cooked it before. I've seen people cook it like in a non-stick pan. And because this marinade has water in it, it's kind of tough because that gets it more watery than we really want it. And it doesn't really form a nice, crust on the chicken. All right, so let's see here. 1 teaspoon of black pepper, which is probably not what everybody wants to hear. In that case, you could, switch to a cast iron or use stainless steel. All right, so 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 tablespoon of chili powder. This is an interesting mix right here. Let's see here. There. Okay. And then 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So something you'll notice is I use olive oil, but on Chipotle's website, they don't have olive oil in the recipe. I believe they have sunflower oil in the ingredient list. I use olive oil only because I had it at the time. Didn't want to have to go buy a fancy, sunflower oil. If you want to be as accurate as possible, you would use that, but oils are kind of hard to tell apart in a marinade. Maybe, if you're cooking something and then eating it after, and you put oil in the pan, but I think you'd be okay in terms of that. Does the type of chili powder matter? I just use the same one I use with Indian cooking from gym workouts. Yeah, I would say it kind of does matter. Maybe not in terms of accuracy, but in terms of potency. Different chili powders can be, what does chili powder actually mean? It's a dried chili that is ground up, but what are the types of chilies that they're using? I would just try to stick with, some type of chili powder from, the local grocery store. That's typically what I've always used. So maybe your, one that you have that you use in Indian cooking could be used. But, again, I wouldn't overthink it. If you're like, hey, this kind of tastes a little funky, it doesn't taste, exactly like Chipotle, then yeah, you could switch that up. But yeah, so we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of olive oil for the marinade. And again, with the accuracy thing, this is one of those things where you can kind of do more or less, but the oil is important because you want that to kind of be able to mix stuff around because there's a lot of dryness in this recipe, including the peppers. So here's kind of the biggest one that I don't, people ask all the time in the comments is what type of Chipotle peppers do you use? What kind of, canned Chipotle peppers? And to be honest, when I was filming the video, I think I used the San Marcos, because there's more Chipotle, there's more adobo sauce in here. And so I think that's really important to add because the adobo sauce has ingredients in it that you'll see on their website that aren't in my marinade, but you might see in other videos. And one of them being vinegar. And so I know another video from a different creator who, is really good at mimicking recipes and did a great job. He put in there that the secret was distilled white vinegar. And, and he referenced my recipe. And something I, have as a reply to that, which I think I may have replied to him, is, well, my recipe already has it because if you have this can, it's already in the adobo sauce. So you don't need to add it extra. He went all the way to be using dried, Chipotle peppers and then rehydrating them. And personally, I think that's just a waste of time. It's not, something that everyone's going to have time for. I'd rather just pick up a can and get the same type of outcome. But the other one, which let me grab right now, that we have that's in a lot of markets that I actually used in this bag right here, was this La Costeña brand of Chipotle peppers and adobo sauce. So I took out 4 and then put in all of the adobo sauce in that can into the blender. But yeah, something else that was, in this chat too that I saw was a lot of people were asking about, the amount of peppers that you can use. And, Again, I found 4 when I was doing this recipe to be pretty accurate to the output that I was getting with it. So let me see here. Let's do this. All right, so there's 1. All right, 2, 3. Let me get a good 4th one here. 4. And this is something I got so much pushback for in the video on the internet was I said, discard the rest of those peppers. Yeah, that's pretty wasteful. So, I mean, if you can save them, that's fantastic. I'd encourage people to save them for another time. Don't, feel free that you don't have to throw them away just because I said that. So yeah, let me put the rest of these peppers in a little storage container. Because what we'll need is this sauce that the peppers are in for the marinade. So let me get these out. From Gloria, let's see here. If you have leftover peppers and sauce in the can, you can transfer them to snack-size Ziploc bags and freeze them flat. Then break off what you need for future recipes. That's fantastic. Yeah. That's even better than me using this piece of glass right here because you can portion them out while you're already in the can like I am now. The problem, though, with saving the peppers is you'll still need some of the sauce. So this is where it kind of comes into where the recipe has a little bit of give or take. Is you see all that sauce that I just added to there? That was a pretty substantial amount. In this little container here, I mean, this is probably pretty poor quality, but there's not a ton of peppers. There's not a ton of sauce in with the peppers anymore. So really, you might only be able to get like another batch of marinade out of this for 4 to 6 chicken thighs, which we'll talk about later. Hey, how much chicken can you actually use now that we're looking back on it years later? So let me cover that up. Okay. And then the final thing that I like to add to kind of, get the viscosity up with this is 3/4 cup of water. There's a note on that with the water. I think that depending on how you're going to cook it, right? If you're going to do this in an air fryer or a nonstick pan, I really wouldn't worry about using the water. I put the water in there so that you have more marinade that can gloss over the chicken because a lot of it's going to get, burnt off on a grill. I don't know how scientific of what I just said is actually accurate, but I found that if you do this recipe with the marinade and it's super wet like this, you put it on a nonstick, it can be pretty wet, and it's not actually how you want it to be. So really maybe just nonstick's the problem. LOL, people get upset over the smallest things. Yeah, gym workouts. They have the right to get upset about it. I personally, just end up wasting stuff sometimes. I don't know why I put that in the video when I was doing the voiceover years ago, but yeah. So, okay, so we have all those things. And we're going to go over there and blend it. And so at this point, you probably all are wondering, well, how do you know, that this is the recipe that Chipotle uses? Because I'm a former employee, right? And how I know is something that everyone can know. So if you go to their website and you read the ingredients list out of any of their items, whether it's chicken, steak, black beans, pinto beans, it will tell you the ingredients behind the actual recipe under the nutrition, because I think they have to list it for allergy's sake. And so out of that, I took that and then the knowledge of what I learned of how they, teach us how to cook in the store and marinate the chicken and take the marinade and do what we're doing, day in and day out, and put it in a recipe that you could do at home. That's accurate to what they advertise on their website as their ingredients. which has been, I'd say as close as you can get to what they're doing in the store. And that's the whole point of Chipotle is they try to make things simple because they want to showcase that they're using natural and whole ingredients. They're not a company that uses a lot of food chemicals in their process. It's really healthy. And that there's really no catch with this. It's just easy and great. Scruffed McGruff. Why didn't you just add water to the adobo to get the remains out? That's a great question. You could definitely do that with your can to get the rest out of here. You could use that 3/4 cup of water into the can and put it in there. That's a great tip. Love Pugs 5, Gloria. Thanks. I never thought about that. Yeah, I love that you guys are talking. Keep throwing some stuff in the chat if you have questions. I'm going to go blend this right now, and then I'll be back and we'll get to the cooking part. Well, that actually worked really well. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see that. If you guys have that same type of consistency at home, let me know, if that's something that you've seen. Let's see here. Gloria. It's nice to add a little smokiness to the homemade salsa. Ooh, that's a great tip. Yeah, salsas are hard to make. I'll say that. I think that's harder than this personally. Scruff and Gruff. Hey, thank you so much, Scruff and Gruff. I really appreciate that. That is freaking awesome, man. I appreciate or girl. I'm not sure for them. I use this recipe a lot, so thank you. Yeah, I used to use it all the time, in and out, and I stand by it. I think it's easy, and I think good food should be easy and relatable to make at home. So I'm glad that it's working well for you. Okay, so we got the marinade. And if you're just now joining, I made the marinade the day before, actually yesterday, and I pre-marinated the chicken. So we're just going to take this marinade and put it off to the side. I'm going to use that later for chicken that I have in the freezer for another time. But we're going to, shift our focus here. And I apologize. It's my first time doing this. I have the laptop. I had a little setup, but, it kind of went haywire. But I'm going to move you guys to the stove. Let's see here. Okay. All right. How's this right here? Can everybody see well? Hey, I missed you guys too. I appreciate that. I'll have to try another. Thanks, Gloria. Yeah, you guys try out all the good recipes. Any tips on how to preserve homemade salsa in the fridge if I meal prep after a day becomes too soggy? From DB. That's a great question. So another thing that, you may not like this answer, but Chipotle kind of goes by making their recipes fresh, and they do their salsas pretty sure every day. And then they will donate or discard stuff that they can't use. And the shelf life of fresh salsa isn't too long. However, there are ways to extend your homemade salsas, especially if you seal them in a can or put them in some type of airtight container. But really the question is, what type of salsa are you trying to make, DP? I think that's an important part. So let me answer that before we drop this chicken. Let's see here. While DB's typing, Tap out. What is the black beans recipe? I know it comes pre-seasoned in the bag, so it's hard to know. And I would love a recipe that gets as close as it can. The black beans are so good. Mine never out. Hey, tap out. I have a little bit of something on the black beans, but I know what you mean. They do come in a bag, and there's a bunch of ingredients on their website that come with it. So I could do that on a live and have that ready to go. But I know for a fact, just from the ingredients from memory, they have things like cumin, chipotle peppers, and adobo sauce is in there. Not like actually in the bag per se, but maybe during the process of when they're heating them up and getting water in the beans to par cook them. And then there's a few other things that they have in there that we could go over on a future live recipe. Oh, yeah, the mild chipotle salsa, the one that isn't blended. Yeah, that's a great question. So that one is when you dice the tomatoes, right? So when you have the diced tomatoes, a big thing that you can do to preserve them so they're not so squishy is getting a tomato that is not too ripe. So having a tomato that is right before its ripeness, so when you cut it, it's not already really squishy. That's number one. Because anytime you're knife cutting a tomato, it's really hard not to squish it. Chipotle, before they switched to their big food scare where they, switched up how they would do stuff, we would dice tomatoes in the store. And they would use a tomato dicing machine that we would just put in, and it would just come out and dice them, which is awesome. So what that would do is it would separate the liquid from the actual diced tomato. So another point on that is after you slice them or use, some type of machine to dice it, you got to get the liquid out. So you can get a strainer and you can strain the actual tomato so that all the juice can get out of there, because that can add a lot of problems with the sogginess that you're probably experiencing. And then another thing about that too is if you're putting, lime juice on the mild salsa, which, has acidic properties, that could also be degrading the tomato over time faster, and as well as the salt. So maybe not adding those components until you're ready to assemble it each day. You could do like whole diced tomatoes in a separate container, have some of your other ingredients prepped, and then each day you want to have it for a meal prep, you can quickly just kind of mix them together with a spoon and then add your salt and add your citrus juice to it. I love Chipotle, but what makes me sick every time I eat Chipotle? From Mr. Slash X. That's a great question. Yeah, I don't know. I've recently had a problem with, which is why I didn't do a live last week. I apologize. But I've recently had a problem with doing raw seafood. So maybe your body's sensitive to some of the ingredients. Maybe it's the high fiber content. That's a great question. I hear that from a lot of people. Okay, so here's my cast iron skillet that I used in the video. That actually, I got this thing from Walmart. So there's a lot of comments on here, which, people will be able to see in the future. I have it, preheated here. I don't have it super seasoned with oil right now. This is just an average, Walmart cast iron skillet that we're going to use today. So there's nothing fancy about it. Don't overthink it. I know that's a question a lot of the time, but this is, been used since the Chipotle recipe, to be honest with you. That's right around when I bought it. So what we're going to do is hopefully not mace ourselves out. I'm going to turn on the fan, so the audio is going to be kind of botchy. And what I'll do is I'll throw down the chicken. I'll walk away with the laptop, but I'm going to turn on the fan so we can all talk. It's like I'm dropping, some type of smoke bomb or something. Okay, so I'll be back 1 second. Okay. All right, so we have our pre-marinated stuff. And I'm going to put on a glove real quick. Okay. Yeah, this. Okay. MacBook is not ideal, but we'll do this. All right. So I'm going to throw it down, then I'll turn it on so I can still talk. Something big is inside down. I like to do that. That's a good, way to start this. I don't know if you can hear that, but that is a fantastic sizzle and sear. So that's exactly what you want. Preheat it on like a medium heat. Don't turn it up too high. That's another thing. You don't want to burn it. All right. We're gonna load this up, to show that you really can do all of this at once. Yeah. See, and I'll be honest with you, when I worked grill in Chipotle, I would cough when I threw this down on the grill at Chipotle. So it really just is what it is, It's honestly, it's a spicy thing you're throwing down on some heat, It's kind of hard to combat that expectation. All right, so I don't know if y'all can see this and how stable this camera is, but it's a little crowded. I'll space these out in a little bit, but I threw these down. They're on a medium heat. Let's let those cook for a little bit. We can come over here and talk while we wait. A lot of people will ask, and I'll get to the comments here in 1 second. A lot of people will ask, how long do I do it before I flip them? And that's something that, I talked about a lot in the video, or maybe I didn't talk about a lot of it. I already said it, is you really want color and temperature. So before you flip it, we're going to, check underneath, and we want really like a nice Maillard reaction. That's really what you want. I said a Dr. Pepper char because that's the language my manager at the time at Chipotle would use. She kind of made that up for how she trained us. But that's kind of what we're going to go for today. And then obviously we're going to cook it to 165 degrees minimum. But since it's a chicken thigh, it's a dark piece of meat, you can cook it higher. That's just a good rule of thumb is cook your chicken to 165 minimum. But really a dark meat, you kind of want it like at 175. All right, so let me get back to these comments. So let's see here. Your mild chipotle sauce is the one that isn't blended. Okay, so I hope that helped, DB. I love Chipotle. Okay, so it makes me sick. DB, great tips. I'll try prepping the ingredients separately and stirring. Yeah, that would be the best way I would say to do it, because even something like your cilantro, which I have for tonight for my rice, all those ingredients they're just going to go bad after you dice them up and chop them up. So it's difficult to get a meal prep on that and really have it last more than a couple of days without it degrading its quality. So really separating those ingredients pre-prepped. If you pre-dice your cilantro, I don't know how long that'll last. It's diced. If you mince your cilantro, I don't know how long that's going to last in the fridge. I'll start prepping this. Cast irons are over 100 years old. Wow, love pugs. That's crazy. I've seen some at some pawn shops before, and I know that they can last really forever if you take care of them. Actually, I don't know if this was the cast iron that I used in the Chipotle video, or if this is the one I have now that was in the Chipotle video, but one of my cast irons actually shattered. So it's definitely possible. Except for my cast iron roaster, that's around 100 years old. That's 20 years old. That's still impressive that you can take care of something that long and it lasts that long. That's yeah. Gym workouts. You use skin on chicken thighs. So I use the boneless, skinless chicken thighs, but there's still a little bit of skin. It's really where it's more of that there's not skin there now, but there was. And so that's a good question about how do I tell that? Well, if you look at your chicken thigh, there's two sides to it when it's boneless and skinless, right? There's one side that's really smooth. There's nothing on it. Almost looks like a chicken breast, the way the texture is. And then the other side, you flip it over, it's like kind of like muddled a little bit, and there's a lot of flappiness to it. That's the skin side. So that's what I mean by put that skin side down when you need skin side. Yeah, see, guys, I'm literally coughing right now, probably from earlier or from this, but yeah, it does mace the house out. Which, I got a window right here. I might as well open it. Just give me 1 second. All right, that's going to help out. Okay. Cosmore, yeah. Use boneless, skinless, and boneless. Yes, I would agree with that. Tishin No2 145. Love the viz, Chris. Hey, I really appreciate that. I appreciate you, watching and everyone hopping on here tonight to watch. But before I get back to the chat, let's take a look at how this is looking. So stuff's going good. Let's take a look at how it's doing. Okay, so it's slowly getting there. See how it's slow? You see how it's muddled a little bit and it's not smooth like the other side? That's the skin side. There's not necessarily skin on it right now, but there was. So kind of breaking a rule here, you really should only pick it up when it's ready to flip. But let me turn this up just a tad. So that's a keynote. If you're, it's taking a while and you're like, hey, this is taking forever to cook, you can, turn it up a little bit. It's just, using intuition in the process. That's, it's hard to follow a recipe sometimes when you're like, well, I did it the way that person did it, but it didn't work in my kitchen. Well, because you have a different pan or a different burner, That's why I really want to hop on these lives to see if anybody has any of those types of questions. Okay, must have been Chinese. Yeah. So the cast iron that had shattered probably was made in China. I don't know. I don't know if that makes it more or less worse. Did Chipotle start ripping off customers with smaller portions of things like chicken? Seemed like it over time from Cosmo. That's such a great question. I think the CEO came out recently and said, no, we aren't, skimping on portions. But that's such a subjective question in a way because each restaurant has a different person on the line, and that individual is a human with a scoop, and it's actually like a spoon, a big spoon, and they train people how to serve portions up to 4 ounces and eye it with the spoon, and they'll actually in their training have them plop it on there and okay, we're going to put it on a bowl on a scale and weigh your scoop here, and we're going to practice doing that so you can be accurate. Because they don't want to give out too much or too less. But in terms of that, I think it's human error. I don't know if they've been instructed to do that or not. I doubt it, but I think that's really just human error. Something that I never understood with those restaurants is they could really fix that if they just put some type of measuring cup with a handle, some type of something that would make it so once it's leveled off, it's exactly 4 ounces. But even then, you can put more or less in it. But yeah, they probably have been told to do that only because it's money, and they don't want to spend money on extra stuff. The cast iron that is over 100 years old was my great grandma. Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool, Love Clubs. Probably really good too. Better than the stuff they make nowadays. Better than my Walmart skillet that we have over here. Okay, so I'm holding my laptop with one hand. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I really hope you can. Okay, so you see how we're starting to get a little bit of, moving this around, a nice Dr. Pepper color, as I would call it, with some Maillard reaction on it. That one's ready to flip. This one, give it a little bit more time. Let's see if I can show you guys. This one is a little bit longer. This one, oh, got it. There we go. This one's ready. So I'll flip that one. That's a small one. See if I can actually. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can. This is better. This one's not ready. That one's definitely not ready. You see how? This is a good example. You see how it's kind of blonde like that? They'll tell you, not to flip that with it being blonde like that. It needs more time. Something I just realized is that if you're coughing while you're doing this recipe, you're doing it right. Because I guarantee any grill cook in Chipotle that's making this chicken on the grill is coughing while they're doing it. So if you're coughing, that's a good sign. It means you have the recipe done right. So that's awesome. All right, let's get back to this. Love pugs. Yes, they're thick. Yeah, so it must be a really quality skillet, which is great. I wouldn't, part from that at all. Now that's Milliard by T. Shinazi. What even does that word mean? I need to Google that. Let me Google that. Milliard. A complex series of chemical reactions. Oh, did you mean Maillardic? Do the black parts taste burnt from tap out? Great question. Technically, that's like a hair before it's black. So no, it doesn't. But it can. And if you do, which I've seen it plenty of times in the restaurant, you can just cut it off. Or you can cut it, and sometimes it'll just fall off from when you have it on the cutting board. Love Pugs 5. You can also cook them in a grill. Yeah. That's exactly right. You can throw the cast iron on a grill, put some tortillas on it, use it as a little flat top on the grill. All right. Sorry, guys. It's going in and out. All right. Taking a look at this. Chipotle chicken. All right. That looks good. See, that's not necessarily burned, I would say. I think it's like a hair before. It has a nice sear on it. This guy's good. He's ready. This guy's not ready. And this guy, I would say, is ready. Okay. I don't know if y'all can see this because I'm holding you up with my MacBook. But we have one piece left to flip. And then I'm going to get out the temperature gauge right here. And we're going to take some temps. So again, you're looking for color when you're flipping. And then you're looking for temperature when you know it's going to be done. A minimum of 165. And a high, I would say, you can cook them to like 180, and then you really, it's probably going to start drying out. Okay, so first temp, we're at, let's see if you guys can see this, but see this temp. It's at rounded up 150 right now on the inside of one of these. So we're getting there. I'm going to turn down the heat actually because we already have a good Maillard reaction on one of the sides. So I turned down the heat down to just like a medium on the burner. That's something that a lot of people, struggle with is, how hot do I have the pan? If you have that pan really hot, you're definitely going to be smoking out your house. So if you just turn the pan down after you get that initial really good sear on it, then you should be good to go for the rest of it. It can slowly cook. All right, so we're at 157 on it. Another piece we're at 169. So this little guy is getting done quickly. But then another part of it, which you can see, is at 157. So you definitely want to check all pieces of the chicken and make sure that you have it out there. You can cook the chicken, peppers, and onions in a black stone. Yeah, you definitely. That's actually, if you could get a grill at home, right? If you have that, ability to do that, a blackstone is the clearest way to have this recipe be dead on to what Chipotle uses in the store. Let me see here. Okay, so yeah, so make sure that it's fully cooked in most of the portions, up to 165 minimum. I would say aim for 175. That's important. So we're going to put that in there. What else you guys got for me while this is cooking? I'm going to show you how to cut it after this. Really easy. And then, we'll almost be done with our hour and ask any other questions that you have. I don't know if this has been super beneficial for everyone, but I've had a good time doing this and getting back on and trying to reconnect with you all. Oh, another thing too, peppers and onions, love Pub 5. You could do that in your cast iron too. Same thing. I appreciate that, Love Pugs. It's been fun actually. Yeah, I was kind of nervous to do this, but it's actually been really fun. DB, any upcoming videos you're planning? Yes, I do have an upcoming video. I've gotten a lot of people asking for Chipotle's honey chicken recipe. So I have that coming up and have talked to a couple of people that work in the store. And I'll go into my local Chipotle and talk with people and ask them about the recipe. And I found, a couple of advertisements for it online. But essentially, it's the same thing that we just made today. But in the end, they have this spice that they powder on the chicken, and then they toss it, I think, with some type of honey glazed sauce. And I think the powder has like paprika, honey powder, and cumin in it because it says with a hint of, a spice like this. And I think they're red chipotle chili peppers. Okay, so let's see how we're doing. Hopefully we're not burning over here while I'm multitasking. Let's see. Okay, so these are looking really good. This guy is finally ready to flip. Let's take a temperature of everything that we have going on here. So to answer your question, DV, I am going to make a Chipotle honey chicken video. And I'm writing the script for that right now and doing some recipe testing to make sure that I have all the good stuff in there for you guys. All right, so a lot of this is almost done. this little piece is done. Gonna add that to some tin foil right there with my thermometer. Real classy. So yeah, all this is still kind of going. So I'm going to turn the heat down even more because now I just want it to sit in that pan and fully cook off and heat up. I don't want to burn it while the inside of it's cooking. At this point, you could throw it in the oven, but that's a lot of work in my eyes. I just turned down the burner and you can use it. Okay, so Love Pugs 5. I would just take some of the marinade and use it on the peppers and onions. That's a great idea. That actually would probably taste amazing. I will say, Chipotle's fajita recipe is really simple. You can watch them make it from behind the counter, but it's literally peppers, bell peppers, red onion, just chopped, mixed together, and then they throw it on the grill and they add minced oregano or diced oregano that's dried, like we had tonight in the marinade, and kosher salt. And then they'll spray down some type of, they can get sunflower oil on the grill, or they'll just use the grill that's seasoned. So that is actually their fajita recipe that I have a video for. It's really simple. It's almost like, why do we have a video for this? Well, some people want to know. Gym workouts. Is Diet Coke char better or worse than Dr. Pepper char? Yeah, that's a great question. Is Coke darker than Dr. Pepper? I think it is, but I don't actually know. That's a great question. Okay, so we're back here with the laptop. Okay, so we're at like 170 on this piece. I'm gonna pull it off. We're getting hungry. All right, this is at 171. All right, that's at 167, 175, or 174. And probably more, let's be honest. This is still going. I'll put them in the center of my pan. All right, this is at 170. Let's pull that. And let's go ahead and let's get our tin foil going, get this wrapped up. All right, so I'm going to show you guys how to cut this real quick. And that'll be, kind of the end of the video, at the end of our live stream here. All right. I want to make sure you guys can see this. Perfect. So you won't see my head because we're going to cut this. All right, I'm going to take a temperature of the last one here, see where we're at, see if we can pull it. It looks like it's hanging on for dear life. It's still at 160. So, for the sake of time, I will cut the stuff that we already have over here. Okay. So, Chipotle's chicken, we're dicing it up. Something that they want you to cut it, size-wise, is 3/4 inch cubes. So we're going to do that, and I have the worst knife skills probably on the internet, thanks to everyone in the comments. At Chipotle, they have cut gloves, right? So we just put our hand on it like this. That's really not how you're supposed to do it at home, especially if you don't have a cut glove. I don't. So everybody's like, use the claw technique, Chris. Come on. So we're going to do some type of claw technique to keep it from doing that. But I'm going to stand up and go ahead and cut the chicken. Okay, so you go down like that. You don't have to do it fast. You make your rows through the chicken, and you space these about 3/4 inches apart. So right below an inch, or to whatever size you like. That's just what they do there. Now we're going to flip it like this to where when you go through it with your knife, you have enough room to go through it. So you don't want to do this, right? This is going to be really difficult to go through quickly. You could if you have a huge knife, but space them out. Give yourself some room to cut them. So we're going to go through it again. Wouldn't it be ironic if I cut my finger on the live stream? All right, so going through it all. Okay, so let's take a look here. Let's find a good piece for the camera, right? Or you know what? Let's just be authentic here. Okay, so here's a 3/4 inch cube. That is it right there. Let's get a taste test in here of Chipotle's chicken. Oh, guys, that's fantastic. It actually, yeah, it literally tastes like how it tastes at Chipotle, which is great. And we all just did that together at home. Okay, so I cut that piece. I'm gonna get the last piece off. All right, we got our last piece. Okay, let's take a look back at the comments here. Just extra flavor. Yeah, gonna add some extra flavor through the cuts. George, no finger cuts. Take your time. Completely agree. We got to go slow with this. Safety first. Yeah. So that, everyone, is their chicken recipe. Hope you enjoyed this live. Again, I have a honey Chipotle chicken recipe coming out based on my, insider knowledge and scoop. And then the foundation of this recipe of the Chipotle chicken added with the stuff that they use with the honey chicken. It's basically the same thing. Not hard to do. I could do a live on that too. But we'll be doing a recipe video on that. But that is it for at least Chipotle. And if anybody would like to see anything else recipe-wise that maybe is Chipotle or isn't Chipotle per se, and other videos like we talked about with the cookie earlier, I'm completely down to do that. So gym workouts, I appreciate the videos and the walkthrough. Just the chicken Chipotle recipe alone really helped me feel perfect. Heck yeah, that's awesome. If you want to see anything else, just let me know. If you have any questions on any other types of meal prepping with different foods, let me know. George, I first did this recipe 4 or 5 years ago and took it to work for a taco party. Everybody liked it. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll see comments like this where people are like, yeah, and I made it for my family and they loved it. And that's really what this is about, guys, is being able to use this stuff and share it with the world, and you guys be able to share it with other people. That's really what my goal is, to make this relatable and, make these recipes not seem so complicated because they're easy and you guys can do this too at home. So I appreciate that. Anybody have anything else? If not, we're going to go ahead and end this session. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next week where we will be doing Chipotle's rice videos. So we're going to do rice next week, and I'll leave it up to you all. I saw a black bean one, so if somebody wants to see anything else, we can do the black beans and the rice, but let me know in the comments or on my posts or my channel. Thank you, George. I appreciate it. Hey, you guys have a good one. Take care now.